This tree is standing in salt water. The soil around its roots contains almost no oxygen. It is flooded by the sea, twice every single day. By every rule of plant biology, this tree should be dead. So why isn't it? Welcome to today's video on mangroves. I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know for your Sec 1 geography, the environment, the plant adaptations, the animal adaptations, and how to compare mangroves with the tropical rainforest. By the end, you will be able to write a complete exam answer on any adaptation question. Not a guess, a full, confident, marks-earning answer. Let's get started. This video is for you if you are a Singapore Sec 1 geography student and you know that mangroves come up in the exam. But the adaptations feel a bit hard to explain in your own words. Maybe you keep mixing up prop roots and pneumatophores. Maybe you know the names but can't explain the mechanisms. That's exactly what we're going to fix today. By the end of this video, you will be able to describe the mangrove environment accurately, explain any plant adaptation using name, describe, explain, and explain any animal adaptation with the survival mechanism. You will also be able to compare mangrove and rainforest adaptations, which is a common exam question. Here is your roadmap for today. We start with the mangrove environment, what makes it such a challenging place to survive. This is the foundation. If you don't understand the environment, you can't explain the adaptations. Then we move into plant adaptations, 5 of them. Then animal adaptations, 4 animals, including one you might not expect. After that, we do a direct comparison of mangrove and rainforest. And we'll finish with the 3 most common exam mistakes and a full recap. The whole video is about 17 to 18 minutes. I recommend watching with a notebook. Pause whenever I tell you to. I'll tell you exactly when. Let's go. Chapter 1. The mangrove environment. Before we talk about how mangroves survive, we need to understand what exactly they're surviving against. What type of water do mangroves grow in? What is special about the soil? How does the tide affect the environment? And why is salt such a big problem? These are the 4 questions that Chapter 1 will answer. By the time we move into adaptations, you should be able to name the key environmental challenges without looking at your notes. Mangroves grow in a very specific location along the coast. Look at the diagram on screen. You can see 3 zones: the high tide line at the top, the intertidal zone, the shaded band in the middle, and the low tide line below. Mangroves grow in the intertidal zone. This means they are submerged by seawater at high tide and then exposed to the open air at low tide. This happens twice a day, every day. The water in the intertidal zone is called brackish water. Brackish water is a mixture of fresh water and salt water. It is saltier than fresh water but less salty than open seawater. This mixing happens in an estuary, where a river meets the sea. So your 3 key terms for this slide are brackish water, intertidal zone, and estuary. Make sure you can define all 3. Now let's look at 2 more challenges. The soil itself. The first is, the soil is anaerobic. Anaerobic means there is almost no oxygen. Because the soil is constantly waterlogged by tidal flooding, it becomes compacted and there are no air gaps. Roots need oxygen to respire, to produce energy. In most soils, roots absorb oxygen from tiny air pockets between soil particles. In anaerobic mud, those air pockets don't exist. The second challenge is that the mud is soft and unstable. The tidal water deposits very fine-grained sediment. It's almost like wet clay. This provides almost no grip for roots. Most trees anchor themselves with a deep taproot system, but in soft mud, that simply doesn't work. Without a solution, a tall tree would topple or slowly sink. 2 problems. 2 red flags for any normal plant. And then there's salt. Look at the diagram on screen. When a plant absorbs water through its roots, the water carries dissolved salts along with it. In a normal freshwater environment, the salt concentration is very low, not a problem. But in brackish or salt water, the concentration is much higher. If salt builds up inside the plant's cells, something called osmotic stress happens. The salt draws water out of the cells, the opposite of what the plant wants. The cells lose water, shrink, and the plant begins to die. So the mangrove faces an impossible-sounding problem. It needs to absorb water to survive. But the water it lives in contains salt, and absorbing that salt would kill it. This is the problem that mangrove adaptations have evolved to solve, and they've solved it in very clever ways. Before we move into adaptations, look at the summary table on screen. The key environmental conditions are brackish water, tidal influence with twice daily flooding, waterlogged anaerobic soil, high light levels because the canopy is open, high and stable temperatures because mangroves grow in tropical or subtropical regions, and variable salinity that changes with tides and river flow. The 4 key challenges that will drive every adaptation you see are salt, tidal flooding, anaerobic soil, and unstable mud. Write those 4 challenges down. Every plant and animal adaptation in this topic exists because of at least one of these 4 challenges. Chapter 2. Plant Adaptations. 5 adaptations. Each one is the plant's answer to one or more of those 4 challenges we just identified. How do mangrove trees stay upright in soft mud? How do their roots get oxygen when the soil has almost none? How do they deal with salt? And notice I said deal with salt in 2 different ways. And how do their seeds survive tidal flooding? Let's find out. Adaptation 1. Prop roots, sometimes called stilt roots. Look at the diagram on screen. You can see arching roots growing downward from the trunk and lower branches. They spread outward in a wide arc, entering the mud at multiple contact points. This creates a wide, cage-like base around the tree. Why does this help? The soil is soft mud. It provides almost no grip. But if you spread your weight across a large area, you need less grip at any single point. Think of it like a tripod on unstable ground. 3 legs spread wide are far more stable than 1 leg straight down. This is the primary function of prop roots, stability in soft, waterlogged mud. The main species is the red mangrove, Rhizophora, and you can see it at Sungei Buloh Wetland Reserve right here in Singapore. But prop roots do something else too, and this is the part that students often forget. The soil is anaerobic. So how do the roots get oxygen? Look at the prop root in the diagram. The upper part of the root, the part that arches above the waterline, has tiny pores on its surface called lenticels. At low tide, when the prop roots are exposed to the air, these lenticels absorb oxygen directly from the atmosphere. That oxygen is then transported downward through the root tissue to the underground root network, the parts buried in the anaerobic mud. So prop roots solve 2 problems. Their primary job is stability, distributing the tree's weight across soft mud. Their secondary function is absorbing oxygen through lenticels at low tide. Here's the exam note. If you are asked about prop roots, try to mention both functions. That's what gets you the full marks. Adaptation 2, Pneumatophores, pronounced pneumatophores, also known as breathing roots. Pneumatophores are very different in appearance from prop roots. Look at the diagram on screen. They are pencil-thin projections that grow vertically upward from the underground root network. They emerge above the surface of the mud like thin spikes, typically about 20 to 30 centimeters tall. Like prop roots, they have lenticels, those tiny pores, on the parts that are exposed to air at low tide. At low tide, the lenticels absorb oxygen from the atmosphere. The oxygen then diffuses downward through spongy tissue inside the pneumatophore to the underground roots below. This allows the tree to respire even though the soil it's growing in is completely anaerobic. The main species that uses pneumatophores is the gray mangrove, Avicennia marina, also found at Sungei Buloh. Now here is the slide that could save you 2 marks. Prop roots versus pneumatophores. These 2 adaptations are the most commonly confused pair in this entire topic. Look at the comparison on screen. Shape, prop roots are arching and stilt-like. Pneumatophores are pencil-thin spikes. Direction, prop roots grow downward from the trunk. Pneumatophores grow upward from underground roots. Primary function, prop roots provide stability first, and oxygen as a secondary function. Pneumatophores provide oxygen only. They give no structural support. Here is the exam trap. Do not say that prop roots are breathing roots. Prop roots provide stability and some oxygen. Pneumatophores provide oxygen only. Also, both absorb oxygen through lenticels at low tide. That's the same mechanism. The difference is in structure, direction, species, and primary function. Write down that comparison. It comes up in exams. Adaptation 3. Salt filtration at the roots. This is the plant's first strategy for dealing with salt. Remember the problem. The plant needs to absorb water, but the water contains salt. Salt filtration works at the root cell membranes. Look at the diagram on screen. On the left is salt water. Blue water particles and orange salt particles mixed together. At the root membrane, shown as a filter screen, most of the salt particles are blocked. Only water molecules pass through. The result is that the plant absorbs relatively fresh water from a salty environment. Some species of red mangrove, Rhizophora, Chrysophora, can filter out up to 99% of the dissolved salt before it enters the plant. This dramatically reduces the osmotic stress we talked about earlier. By blocking salt at the roots, the plant prevents the problem before it even starts. Adaptation 4. Salt excretion through the leaves. This is the plant's second strategy for dealing with salt. And notice, it works at a completely different location and at a completely different stage. Specialized salt glands on the surface of the leaves actively pump excess salt out of the plant. You can sometimes see white crystalline deposits on mangrove leaves. That is the excreted salt. When it rains, the crystals are washed away. The key difference from filtration, salt excretion deals with salt that has already entered the plant. It removes the salt after the fact. The gray mangrove, Avicennia, relies primarily on leaf excretion. And here is the most important sentence on this slide. I want you to say it to yourself out loud after the video. Filtration blocks salt at the roots before it enters. Excretion removes salt at the leaves after it enters. Different location, different timing. That's how you tell them apart. Let's put the two salt strategies side by side so the distinction is completely clear. Filtration happens at the roots. Excretion happens at the leaves. Filtration blocks salt before it enters the plant. Excretion removes salt after it has entered. Filtration works through the root cell membrane. Excretion works through specialized salt glands. With filtration, you see nothing on the surface. With excretion, you can see white crystals on the leaf. Filtration is used by red mangroves, Rhizophora. Excretion is used by gray mangroves, Avicennia. Both strategies prevent toxic salt levels inside the plant. They just do it at different points in the process. In the exam, if you are asked to compare the two strategies, use these three contrasts: location, timing, and visible result. Adaptation 5. Vivipary. This one solves a completely different problem, the seed problem. Normal plant seeds fall from the parent plant and germinate in the soil. But in a mangrove, the seeds would land in soft, waterlogged, anaerobic mud, and they would be washed away by the next high tide before they had any chance to establish roots. Vivipary is the solution. With Vivipary, the seed germinates while it is still attached to the parent plant. It grows into a self-contained seedling called a propagule, a long, cigar-shaped structure with a pointed tip, typically 20 to 60 centimeters long, with its own food store and early root system. When the propagule is ready, it drops from the parent tree. The pointed tip sticks immediately into the mud. Because the propagule already has a root system, it can begin anchoring straight away, no germination delay. If the propagule doesn't immediately find mud, it can float on the water for several weeks before establishing in a new location. This is how mangroves colonize new coastlines. Right, pause the video now. For each of the 5 plant adaptations, prop roots, pneumatophores, salt filtration, salt excretion, and Vivipary, write a response using the name, describe, explain structure. Name the adaptation, describe what it looks like or where it is. Then explain exactly how it helps the plant survive. Do this for all 5. When you are ready, unpause for the model answers. Pause now. Welcome back. Let's go through the model answers. Prop roots. Arching stilt-like roots growing from the trunk into the mud. They distribute the tree's weight across soft mud for stability, and their lenticels absorb oxygen at low tide. Pneumatophores, pencil-like roots growing vertically upward from underground roots. At low tide, lenticels cells absorb oxygen from the air and transport it downward to underground roots, enabling respiration in anaerobic soil. Salt filtration, root membranes block up to 99% of dissolved salt. The plant absorbs relatively fresh water from a salty environment, reducing osmotic stress. Salt excretion, leaf glands pump excess salt out as crystals on the leaf surface. This removes salt that has already entered the plant and prevents toxic buildup inside cells. Vivipary, the seed germinates on the parent plant as a propagule with a pointed tip. On landing, it roots immediately into the mud, avoiding being washed away by tidal flooding. How did you do? If you mixed up any of the root types or the two salt strategies, go back and review slides 10 to 16 before you move on. Chapter 3. Animal Adaptations. The plants have their strategies. Now let's look at the animals. The intertidal zone creates a unique challenge for animals too. At high tide, the entire habitat is flooded. At low tide, it's exposed mud and air. Animals that live here need to cope with both conditions. We'll look at 4 animals: the Mudskipper, the Fiddler crab, the Archerfish, and migratory water birds. Each one has a fascinating survival strategy. Animal 1, the Mudskipper. The Mudskipper is remarkable because it is a fish, but it spends a significant part of its life out of water. Look at the diagram on screen. The Mudskipper has modified muscular pectoral fins that work like stubby arms, allowing it to move across mudflats and even climb mangrove roots. It can absorb oxygen through its moist skin as long as the skin stays damp. It also has a modified gill chamber that retains water, allowing it to breathe on land for extended periods. How does this help survival? At low tide, the Mudskipper moves onto exposed mudflats to feed on insects, algae, and other invertebrates, food sources that fully aquatic fish simply cannot reach. Because most fish cannot function on land, the Mudskipper has this food source almost entirely to itself. The key point for the exam, the Mudskipper's advantage, is access to an uncontested food source in the intertidal zone. Animal 2, the Fiddler crab. The Fiddler crab is famous for one thing. The male has one claw that is enormously enlarged, sometimes as large as the rest of its body. It uses this for display and territorial signaling. But the adaptation we're interested in is its burrowing behavior. At high tide, the Fiddler crab retreats into its burrow and seals the entrance with a mud plug. That mud plug traps an air pocket inside the burrow. The crab breathes from that trapped air during submersion, enabling it to survive tidal flooding while sheltered underground. At low tide, the crab emerges to feed on organic detritus in the mud. Here is an interesting bonus point: Fiddler crab burrows aerate the soil. By digging through the anaerobic mud, the crabs inadvertently create channels that improve oxygen supply to mangrove roots nearby. Animal 3, the Archerfish. This is the one that often surprises students, and it is genuinely extraordinary. The Archerfish feeds on insects, spiders, and small lizards on mangrove roots and branches above the waterline. It targets its prey by spitting a precise jet of water, accurately up to 3 meters. Here's the physics problem it has to solve. When you look at an object above water from below, light refracts. It bends at the water surface. This means the target appears to be at a different position than where it actually is. A normal fish aiming at that apparent position would miss. The Archerfish compensates for this refraction. Exactly how it does this is still studied by scientists. It appears to use both positional learning and angle calculation. The survival advantage, an almost entirely uncontested food source above the water, completely inaccessible to most other fish. Animal 4, migratory water birds. Each year, tens of thousands of birds migrate from breeding grounds in temperate and subarctic regions southward to tropical areas including Singapore. Many of these birds use mangrove systems as feeding and resting grounds during migration. In Singapore, Sungei Buloh Wetland Reserve is a designated Ramsar site, which means it is recognized internationally as a wetland of global importance. It hosts over 90 species of migratory birds each season. Now, how can 90 species use the same small patch of mangrove without all competing for the same food? The answer is niche partitioning. Each species uses a different feeding method, food source, or feeding zone. Herons stand in shallow water and stab fish with a long, sharp beak. Sandpipers probe soft mud for invertebrates using a long, curved beak. Kingfishers dive from a branch to catch small fish with a sharp, pointed beak. Same location, same time. Completely different ecological niches. Pause the video now. Choose one animal from the list on screen: Mudskipper, Fiddler crab, Archerfish, or migratory waterbird. Write a complete exam-style response using name, describe, explain. Name the adaptation. Describe the physical feature or behavior. Explain how it helps the animal survive in the intertidal zone. Write it out fully. When you are ready, unpause for a model answer. Welcome back. Here is a model answer for the fiddler crab. Name: amphibious burrowing. Describe: the fiddler crab digs a burrow into the mud and seals the entrance with a mud plug at high tide, trapping an air pocket inside. Explain: the trapped air pocket allows the crab to breathe during tidal submersion, enabling it to survive in the intertidal zone where it is regularly flooded by seawater. Notice that the explain step names the mechanism. Trapped air pocket enables breathing and links it directly to survival in the intertidal zone. That link is what earns the second mark. Check your own answer. Did you name the adaptation precisely? Did you describe the physical feature? Did you explain the survival mechanism and connect it to the environment? Chapter 4: Mangrove versus Rainforest. Both the mangrove and the tropical rainforest are found in tropical regions, warm temperatures, high rainfall, high humidity. In that sense, they share the same broad climate. But look at the comparison table on screen. The challenges are completely different. Rainforest plants fight for light in a crowded, multi-layered forest. They fight for nutrients in thin, leached soil. Their adaptations, drip tips, buttress roots, large leaves, epiphytes, are all responses to light competition and nutrient scarcity. Mangrove plants fight salt, tidal flooding, anaerobic soil, and unstable mud. Their adaptations, prop roots, pneumatophores, salt filtration, salt excretion, Vivipary, are all responses to these water and salt challenges. The animals face similar contrasts. Rainforest animals deal with a dense, multi-layered forest. They need to navigate vertically, camouflage, or occupy narrow niches. Mangrove animals deal with alternating submersion and exposure. They need to be amphibious or to partition feeding niches. Here is the core contrast, and I want you to write this down. A rainforest plant transplanted into a mangrove would die. Not because of the temperature, not because of the rainfall, but because of the salt, the flooding, and the anaerobic soil. The adaptations that help in a rainforest: large leaves for capturing light, drip tips to shed water, buttress roots for structural support in thin soil. None of these solve the mangrove's problems. The adaptations are built for completely different survival problems. That is the insight that will help you answer any comparison question in the exam. Before the final recap, let's fix the 3 most common mistakes that lose marks in this topic. Mistake 1: describing prop roots without explaining the mechanism. Writing prop roots hold the tree up gets you 0 marks. You need to explain how the widespread distributes weight across soft mud, reducing the grip needed at each point. Mistake 2: saying pneumatophores help the tree breathe without the mechanism. They help it breathe is too vague. The full answer: at low tide, lenticels on the pneumatophores absorb oxygen from the air, which diffuses downward through spongy tissue to the underground roots, enabling respiration in otherwise anaerobic soil. Mistake 3: confusing salt excretion and salt filtration. Saying both remove salt is wrong. Filtration happens at the roots and blocks salt before it enters. Excretion happens at the leaves and removes salt after it has entered. Different location, different timing. Mechanism is what earns the second mark. Always explain how. Great work getting through to the end. Here are your 5 takeaways. 1. The mangrove environment: brackish water, intertidal zone, anaerobic soil, soft, unstable mud, salt toxicity. Know all 5 challenges. 2. Prop roots equal stability. First, then oxygen through lenticels. Pneumatophores equal oxygen only, no structural support. These are different adaptations. 3. Salt filtration at the roots blocks salt before entry. Salt excretion at the leaves removes salt after entry. Different location, different timing. 4. Vivipary. The propagule germinates on the parent tree, drops with a pointed tip, and roots immediately into mud. This avoids tidal washout. 5. Mangrove versus rainforest. Same tropical climate, completely different challenges and adaptations. The contrast is in what each environment throws at its organisms. 3 things to do right now. First, complete the exit ticket. 5 minutes, no notes. Second, attempt the WA practice set, 7 marks, 15 minutes. Third, test yourself on the visual card sets. Thank you for watching. If this helped, like and subscribe. It helps more students find these videos. See you in the next one.